I'm joined by a very important guest right here in the ESPN FC set at the ICC studios. Mr. Beer, please sit.
Who says we're scraping the barrel during International Week? More from Shaka and Bernie the Bear a little later on. Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Craig Burley and Stevie Nicol. Shaka was in New York for the launch of the ICC tournament. He also caught up with wrestlers Sheamus and Cesaro. A lot more from Shaka a little later on in the show, but we start with highlights of yesterday's game between the US men's national team and Chile. With that winner 2 years ago, US and Mexico have certainly dominated things over the last few years. Well, Sebastian Salazar was in Houston for that game. He's now in New York. It's kind of a Shaka Hislop understudy, from what I understand. Sebi, what was your big takeaway from last night's game?
Well, I think for all the progress that we talked about, and I actually do believe there's been significant progress under Greg Berhalter. We've been there for 3 of his 4 games. You saw, man, when Chile hit full throttle in the second half, the U.S. really didn't have a lot of answers. And the quality of the players, you know, the difference between Chile's midfield and the U.S. midfield was pretty clear. The other thing that's such a big takeaway for me is this nauseating conversation around Michael Bradley. He hits one great ball, and he's the best American midfielder of all time. And anybody who says differently is a rube who doesn't know anything about the nuance of soccer. He makes one turnover, he should never play for the national team again. Here's my truth about Michael Bradley. He may well be the best and most consistent American midfielder right now, but that statement is more an indictment on the talent pool. And you can start right at the top. Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, for all that they are and all that they play and all their potential, they're taking their first steps at senior international level. We don't know what they're going to be at this elite top level of international play. Then you drop down off of that, and it's a big drop. We're talking about the Christian Roldans, the Marky Delgados, the Will Trapps of the world. These are guys between 23, 26 years old who haven't made the jump out of Major League Soccer yet. So a guy who's got 145 caps ought to be miles ahead of them when he's playing against real good competition. So you could tell me that Michael Bradley was the best American midfielder last night, but you can't tell me he was the best midfielder on that field. He was probably the 3rd or 4th best midfielder on that field when you talk about what the Chileans were doing, especially in the second half. So the truth about Bradley is this, man. He's not great anymore. He's not what he was, but he's still very, very useful to Greg Berhalter in the present.
Deep breath, Seb. 3 wins, of course, for Greg Berhalter going into this tie. The first time that he hasn't recorded a victory as head coach. What's interesting, Sebi, is the attendance or lack of it for these opening matches of his tenure.
Yeah, is this where I should mention that the U.S. Soccer Federation is a 501c3 nonprofit? Because their ticket prices certainly don't reflect that. I'll give you some anecdotal evidence, right? I know the guys will find this hard to believe. I have some friends in Houston. I lived there 2 years. So I knew this game was coming. I texted them, hey, will you be at the game? I got to say, 3/4 of their responses had to do with money. It was either, no, I'm not going, the cost is too much, or I'm thinking about going, but the tickets are really expensive. And to be honest, these are not blue-collar folks with families of 4. These are single people who have high-paying jobs and have expendable income, and were still making the judgment call that it was too much. So I think the Federation really has to look at its ticket pricing and what people are getting for that. I would also just drop this in there. I think it's accepted now that Mexico outdraws the United States in the United States. If the Federation wants to say, well, that's just the way it is, that's fine, we accept that, okay. Here's where I think the Federation should say the buck stops here. Last night in Washington, D.C., El Salvador and Peru drew between 15 and 20,000. They haven't announced the exact attendance yet. I believe in the end that will outdraw the U.S. in the U.S. If the United States is getting outdrawn by El Salvador and Peru in their own country, the Federation really has to look at its ticketing prices, its policy, and at the end of the day, guys, not just who they're inviting into their stadiums, but who they're keeping out of their stadiums when they take these ticket prices as high as they have.
Meanwhile, what happened on the field, of course, a big talking point, Christian Pulisic.
It might be serious enough for him to miss what is a very big week for Dortmund coming up, of course, with Bayern on the horizon in 10 days' time. So not ideal. I'd be lying to you if I told you that he's the most important player in that attacking midfield for Dortmund at the moment. But still, they want to have everyone ready and available for this decisive week potentially.
Of course, yesterday there was no Weston McKennie. He got injured in the last friendly, and there are talks that maybe he could be out for the rest of the season. A key absentee for Schalke, of course, who are fighting for survival in the Bundesliga. What's the latest on him, Raf?
Well, it won't come as much of a solace for him, but he is really badly missed. Even if he is to come back towards the end of the season, Schalke are in dire straits in the Bundesliga. They have a huge game in the Cup against Bremen coming up next week. And to miss a guy who's been a mainstay in a variety of positions and is one of the few guys who seem to be unaffected by that nervousness and that panic at times that has befallen this club in recent weeks, it is a massive blow. And I think that reflects really well on him, but it's probably not the sort of thing he wants to hear at the moment, because he'd be much happier being able to help his teammates coming through this crisis.
Meanwhile, Mexico in action yesterday, taking on Paraguay in San Francisco. So that pretty sums up the mood in Mexico after that victory. Front page of Record, Mina saying Martino the difference. And so far, so good for Martino, Seb.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, the image that everybody in Mexico is talking right now, he's already bled his own blood for the Mexican national team. Took a ball to the face. Was bleeding against Paraguay and muscled through it, continued to coach. The results on the field, spectacular. You say what you will, it's just 2 games. It's 7 goals against CONMEBOL opponents, which will hold a lot of weight down in Mexico. And then on top of that, man, he's saying all the right things. One of his first declarations of this FIFA break was to say, my job here is to make sure the national team of Mexico is respected. He was talking about how he thought Porto mishandled communicating Jesus Corona Tecatito's injury before the break. He actually went after Soccer United marketing, saying they need to better watch the interests of the Mexican national team over some field issues in San Diego. All of that will play very well in Mexico. I do have to call some people out. Some of our colleagues at ESPN Deportes are really holding on to this criticism. Tomás Boy, who's on Fútbol Picante, which is the biggest show in Mexico in soccer, comes on last night and says they didn't generate enough football. They scored 7 goals in 2 games. I know the highlights didn't exactly show Paraguay was great defensively, but against respectable opponents. And at some point, there's going to need to be criticism of Tata Martino. But those who are criticizing him now are losing all the validity to their arguments. And I think at some point, we're just going to look at them as old fuddy-duddies who are kind of holding on to this anti-foreigner approach to Mexican national team coach.
Sebastian Salazar, as always, thank you very much. Just to remind you, plenty of MLS soccer for you this weekend. It all starts in Canada on Friday. Toronto playing host to NYCFC. There are no less than 8 matches on Saturday. And on Sunday, LA Galaxy taking on Portland. That game live on ESPN 2 at 9 p.m. Eastern. Meanwhile, the Premier League back with a bang this weekend. No doubt where the biggest match is. Liverpool taking on Spurs at Anfield on Sunday. You take a look at the odds. Liverpool very much favourites, 20-11 on to take all 3 points. Spurs coming out outsiders at 5, a draw at 3-1. Steve Nicol, how do you feel going into this clash?
I'm actually feeling confident. You know, Liverpool at home in recent times against the top clubs, regardless of whether it's European football or domestic football, have been at their best. So I'm quite comfortable. Tottenham on a horrible run, you know, not so long ago they were 10 points clear of 4th place. Now they're what, a point? So Tottenham are struggling and Liverpool have to make a statement. You know, in the run-in, they have to try and put some pressure on Manchester City. And if they can do that by giving a great performance and a great comprehensive victory, puts the pressure back on City.
Would you be as cocky as Stevie if you were Liverpool?
Well, I don't know if he's cocky. Are you cocky about
No,
it?
not at all. Listen, you know, Tottenham, for me, a lot of Tottenham's strength's been in the middle of the park. You know, we thought they would struggle when they ended up with Sissoko and Harry Winks in the middle, and they were great. Well, unfortunately, Harry Winks has been out.
Right.
Probably will be out at the weekend as well. I don't know whether Wanyama's going to play, but he can't get around that well. Dyer's injured. I mean, the middle of the park for Tottenham is going to struggle, and I expect Liverpool to squeeze them right from the get-go. So that's why I'm confident, and I'm certainly not cocky, just confident.
Just confident.
One win in the last 5 games, 3 defeats, 1 draw. That was against Arsenal at home or Wembley. When they did get a bit lucky, Aubameyang missed the penalty. They lost at Burnley. They lost at Southampton in the last game there. it's been a downturn for them. 15 points off the top, albeit they've got a game in hand, but it's not going to make a difference in the title race, which they were kind of creeping their way back into maybe 6 weeks ago, and then it all went wrong for them. Of course, they had a great result in the Champions League in terms of beating Dortmund over the 2 games, and they played fantastically well. But their Premier League form's taken a dip, particularly away from home.
Of course, it's apt that Raf is on to talk about Liverpool because we literally wrote the book about it, Klopp Bring the Noise, which is, we've been told, now available in Romania. However, it's been translated slightly differently. Football and the Rhythm of Heavy Metal is how that reads, apparently, the translation in Romania. Raf, there's a lot of talk, isn't there, about that Liverpool and the possibility that they can bottle it and all this. Have they got what it takes to push Manchester City all the way in the run-in? What role will Klopp play over the next couple of months?
Well, Klopp will play the main role he's been playing all along. He's trying to build up the confidence of the team. Remember, when he took over, this was a club that had completely lost its way, had lost its belief in even qualifying for the Champions League, let alone playing for the league. And I think that message is going to be repeated and repeated. Don't see it as pressure. See it as an opportunity. See it as a chance. Nobody believed before the start of the season that we'd come this close. Let's just keep going. Let's see how far we can take it. And let's make sure we don't have to blame ourselves for not trying hard enough and not doing everything that we can. And of course, going into this game, possibly being behind again because City play against Fulham and you have to expect them to win on Saturday, that will just add to the pressure of the game. But in recent weeks, they've looked very competent at home when it comes to putting teams away of all sizes. And if it wasn't for the slight injury doubt over Trent Alexander-Arnold, which I think could be very big if he's not there, I would think the bookies have it right. You have to look at Liverpool as favourites to pick up another 3 points.
You take a look at the schedule, no question, this is one of the hardest matches that Liverpool have between now and the end of the season in this competition they have with Manchester City. It is a really nice run-in in it, Stevie. You couldn't ask for much more. Obviously, Chelsea, the anomaly out of that. Plus, once you get past Porto, you could throw in a two-legged semi-final against a big side.
Yeah, I don't think looking at that you're particularly worried too much about where the banana skins may be. I think they're pretty obvious. I was interested to see what Raf said there about how he thinks Klopp's going to go about it with his players. The way we went about it was we turned games into just another game.
Right.
Regardless of who it is, it's another game. We go about it the way we go about it.
That's easy enough to say, though, isn't it? But to put into practice must be trickier.
Well, it is, but the way Raf's talking there, he's actually reminding his players about what they can win.
Right.
This is what can happen. If you're ready, if you're up for the game, this is what can happen. That's a completely different way than how we did it.
Yeah, but
the last time we won the championship.
Yeah, but you're a group of players that had already been over the line and knew how to get over the line. And they had that experience. These Liverpool players, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, if any of them have won titles in different countries. Certainly some of them will have had some sort of success. But certainly, obviously, they haven't been over the line in the Premier League, and most of them in the leagues that they've been playing in. Virgil van Dijk was successful in Scotland, but this is a complete step up now. You're going against a sublime team in Manchester City, 2 excellent coaches, and so it's the question everyone's been asking is, and I think the bottle job's been thrown around, which I certainly don't agree with. If Liverpool don't win the league, I don't think it's a bottle job at all. I just think City if City win it, they're a better team. But go back to Klopp. What Klopp's done with the mindset of Liverpool, particularly European football. You think about the away games where, all right, they've played poorly and they've been beaten in some. But the mindset is always, this Liverpool side can take anybody on. We're going to take City on for the title. We could take Real Madrid on for the Champions League. OK, it's not always successful. You look back to Brendan Rodgers going to Real Madrid and playing a B team.
Yeah.
That's just not going to happen under Jurgen Klopp. Yes, he may make some changes, but ultimately he's drilled into these players now that, we are good enough to beat the best in Europe and the best in England. And that's not a bad place to be.
We'll, of course, be previewing this game more over the next couple of days. But meanwhile, during international break, Louis van Gaal's been talking. Interesting stuff from him regarding Solskjaer.
Maybe.
Saying the coach after me, Mourinho, changed to park the bus tactics and played on the counter. Now there is another coach who parks the bus and plays on the counter. He continues, the main difference between Mourinho and Solskjaer is that Solskjaer is winning, and the stats certainly affirm that, so we know that. Solskjaer is winning where Mourinho wasn't. But
I don't think anybody. Look, I don't think anybody is going to sit here. I mean, well, some might. I don't know about the boys, and say Solskjaer's the next best thing since sliced bread at management level.
Right.
He's landed on his feet. He's got a good coach with him in terms of Mike Phelan. We know Mourinho was struggling at Man United and they were horrible to watch. He's put a spring in the step of everybody, but he'll probably never, no, I'm going to say probably, he'll never have the CV of Mourinho and Louis van Gaal. He just won't. But that's not...
this accusation that he's playing the same tactics but winning.
Well, listen. When I watched United when Louis van Gaal was coaching, it was Mogadon material. I couldn't wait to get watch. He's put a spring in the step of everybody, but he'll probably never. No, I'm going to say probably. He'll never have the CV of Mourinho and Louis van Gaal. He just won't. But that's not...
this accusation that he's playing the same tactics but winning.
Well, listen. When I watched United when Louis van Gaal was coaching, it was Mogadon material. I couldn't wait to get to sleep. So I was dying for somebody to give me some gas or something.
But what's he talking about here with
gas.
Mourinho? Why is he saying that it's the same thing?
What do you mean?
He just said it's the same.
It's Louis van Gaal.
It's the same.
By the way, have you ever heard Louis van Gaal praising anybody other than himself? He found a way.
But it's got nothing to do with him. He's not involved in this conversation. He's talking about Mourinho.
Well, he is involved in the conversation.
He's not involved in the conversation.
But it's making the statement.
It matters
exactly, but he's not talking about himself. He's talking about Mourinho.
It matters where it comes from.
Right.
That's the reason he's saying it. It matters where it comes from. This guy...
He's talking about himself without talking about himself.
How? I don't understand.
Because he's saying by not mentioning himself, he's saying, well, Solskjaer's not changed much from Mourinho, and Mourinho had a part of the boss. Oh, and I'm not going to say it, but my football was actually quite good, and I got the sack.
Right.
That he's trying to point out that his football wasn't as boring as people said without him actually saying that. Right? Am I right, Steve?
That's exactly what he's doing. It's about him. Every single time he opens his mouth, it's about him.
Raf, do you agree with this?
No, I don't. I think what's happened here is that Louis van Gaal has watched a few games, the two PSG games, the games against Arsenal, the games against Liverpool, where, yes, they were set up to play on the counter-attack. But that has not been the whole story. The main story of this team is that they're much freer, that they're taking risk, they're conceding a lot of chances, they're scoring a lot of goals. That's why the team is happy. That's why the fans are happy. They feel that this is the real United with some flaws, admittedly, coming back. So Van Gaal, I think, has taken only a very small sample size and jumped to the wrong conclusions.
But he's basically criticising both of them to try and make himself look better. That's what he's doing. Listen, I can answer your question and say, well, Solskjaer does this a little different, blah, 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 that's why they're winning games. But the fact is, the whole thing is about Van Gaal.
Right.
Because he never got that sort of praise that Solskjaer's been getting since he went there.
Well, he didn't have the same record, did he?
So he criticises the two of them to try and make himself look good. This is all about Van Gaal. It's got nothing to do with Solskjaer and Mourinho.
On a scale of 1 to 10...
This is me, by the way, when I played far better.
On a scale of 1 to 10 of arrogance levels, he's 12, isn't he? I mean, he's 12 and he's way over.
This is a guy that went to Barcelona after Bobby Robson, an incredible season with Barcelona, and somehow, for some reason, they put Bobby upstairs.
Yep.
He criticised the team. And the only reason he was criticising the team is to count all down so that then he can be the big man and everybody can see how great he's made the team. It's all about him.
Meanwhile, let's talk about Raf Honigstein, because it's the first time you've been on Raf since that Champions League draw was made. I think everyone and his dog has done a prediction with regards to who is going to win it all. Let's take a look at yours. No surprises, City, Juventus, Barca and Liverpool in these semi-finals. And what about the final, Raf? Who have you got and who's going to win it?
I've got Barcelona taking on City, and I've got, I think, the officially 5th best player in the world right now, making the difference. Yes, Lionel Messi. I think in this form at the moment.
Who says he's the 5th best player, Raf? What have you been reading?
That was, I think, the result of the recent vote in the Ballon d'Or.
Very
I think
true.
even in the ESPN experts vote, he only finished 3rd.
Wow.
But I've got nothing to do with that.
Wow. So Messi
He finished 3rd in our vote.
Messi to make the difference.
Well, I don't know if it's... Raf said experts there, to be fair, so I don't know.
I don't know how many people are doing that.
That's a broadsheet of people that could cover within this organisation.
If you want to
throw
see
the hat in the ring, Messi in third, my backside.
If you want to see some of the other predictions, you can do so over on our YouTube channel. Plenty of coverage there, lots of extra time as well, plus some of the archive best of the week. When you look at clubs generating the most revenue, it's the same names, isn't it? Real Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester United and Bayern Munich. However, Bayern, when compared to those other three, seems somewhat reluctant to splash the cash. You go back to 2017, their record signing, it's in euros, 41.5 million to Liso. However, things will change. This is what Uli Hoeneß had to say. We're in the process of rejuvenating the team. This will be the biggest ever investment plan Bayern have ever had. And it certainly seems to be confirmed, of course. Pavard going to Bayern in the summer, and reports today that Lucas Hernandez will be joining him. Raf, what do you make of this?
Well, this has been on the cards for quite a while. Even last summer they said, look, the reason why we have a positive net spend this year is because we're saving the money for the big transition that has to happen next year. So this was always going to happen. The question was, how serious were Bayern going to be when it comes to...
will change. This is what Uli Hoeneß had to say. We're in the process of rejuvenating the team. This will be the biggest ever investment plan Bayern have ever had. And it certainly seems to be confirmed, of course. Pavard going to Bayern in the summer, and reports today that Lucas Hernandez will be joining him. Raf, what do you make of this?
Well, this has been on the cards for quite a while. Even last summer they said, look, the reason why we have a positive net spend this year is because we're saving the money for the big transition that has to happen next year. So this was always going to happen. The question was, how serious were Bayern going to be when it comes to really putting the money on the table? Because in the past, it's not that they haven't spent money, but they like to spend it on wages, in getting the likes of Lewandowski, Goretzka, Gnabry for a few million, and putting that money into the wages and getting players for free if they can. But I think the need is great enough, and realization of where the transfer fees are going is clear enough in Munich to understand that if you want to bring 4 or 5 players that will really improve this team, you're looking at the best part of 200 million euros. And that's how much Bayern will spend by the time the transfer window closes in August.
But you look, Pavard, Hernandez, great acquisitions, but they need more as well, don't they, Raf?
They need a bit more. I don't think they need a lot more, but they'd still like the likes of Callum Hudson-Odoi, of course, you know, a fourth winger. They have 3 who look very good, but they'd like to have a 4th one for sure. There's still talk of a second striker coming. Is he going to be like a shadow striker type behind Lewandowski? Maybe Timo Werner, maybe Luka Jovic. Kai Havertz is still in the mix, although it's much more likely that he'll come next summer. But Bayern are not done yet. And if anything, Dortmund's good run, and even if Dortmund were to win the league this year, just increases Bayern's commitment to once again show to everyone, especially in Germany, we are still top dog. We still have the most money. We can still get any player we want. I mean, that's what they like to tell themselves. And this is our statement. And it has to be seen almost in a political context, Bayern reaffirming their position, at least on a financial level.
Of course, their big rivals this season is Dortmund in the Bundesliga. Jadon Sancho already been linked to a number of clubs in England after a standout season. He says, I have no knowledge of it, but it's also completely irrelevant. I'm far from putting a price tag on Jadon, but I will say that even for the biggest club in the world, his transfer would be difficult right now. He continues, Jadon will play at Dortmund next season, and we are definitely planning with. He certainly will not play until his retirement in Dortmund. That, too, is true. So he's obviously had a great season, Raf, and we've heard people in the past come out and make comments like this, and then things change in the summer. How much do you think this is set in stone?
Nothing is set in stone in football. I mean, they didn't plan on selling Dembele after only 1 year at Dortmund, but Barcelona put, 130 million euros on the table. And at that point, that's a good deal, good buy. I think where's different here is that Sancho only renewed his contract, 4 months ago? And I think there would have been already an understanding, look, we know you want to leave eventually, but we also know we want to keep you at least for 1 more year. don't make any trouble, here's the deal, etc. So I think he understands, and I'm talking about Sancho there, where Dortmund are and vice versa. And when talk is saying, look, he is definitely going to be here next year, what he's really also saying is he's definitely, or almost definitely, not going to be here the year after. So I think everything else is market making and is setting certain anchoring figures to make sure that people are A, scared off this year, and B, ready to spend really big when Dortmund are willing to sell in 2020.
It really is quite a title race, isn't it, between Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich. Both teams at level on points as we enter the final stretch of the season. Interesting though, Rafa, what's the vibe in Germany regarding this title race? Has the wind been taken out of the sails slightly, considering both teams exited the Champions League so disappointingly?
No, it hasn't really changed anything. I mean, this is the most exciting title race in 10 years, I think. This is a team that finds itself in Dortmund. It's challenging Bayern, where at the beginning of the season they thought they probably weren't quite ready yet, or maybe Bayern weren't weak enough to really open the door. So now this is hugely exciting for everyone. The fact that both teams have this to play for as the main prize makes it even more exciting domestically. And while the narrative has been of Dortmund kind of losing momentum and running out of steam a little bit because they were 9 points ahead just before Christmas, I think you still have to look at this in isolation, and it still constitutes their best chance since 2012. And if they can win at Bayern, and why shouldn't they? Because they won at home, then it's really up for grabs. So this is proving this is going to be a really, really close call either way.
You got Bayern though, boys?
Yeah, just. They've been stronger of late. Dortmund technically got a very talented team. But I think Bayern's experience is just going to get them over the line this year. Just to go back to that Sancho point just briefly, I think it would be crazy for him to think about even leaving if he's sensible, because Borussia Dortmund have been great for him. He's been great for them, but they've been great for him. They're giving him a platform. He's getting better all the time. You know, when Dortmund see what Pulisic went for, who was coming towards the end of his contract, that price, then that's going to mean if he stays there, he's lengthened his contract, and they can get an absolutely whopping fee for him. So, in terms of him leaving Dortmund, I think it would be crazy to even think about it for at least a year, maybe two. But in terms of Dortmund for the title race, I just seen some signs recently defensively where they've just been weak in some of those games. They've lost quite a lot of goals, and I just think Bayern, for me now, are going to be the stronger in the run-in.
The fact that they both were knocked out of the Champions League, does that dilute your interest in it at all, this title race?
Me personally, it does a little. I always thought Bayern were just been over the distance before, and right now they're so much more consistent than Borussia Dortmund, and that's what's going to see them through. And it won't be a huge surprise, so I can't see them falling off the edge of my chair trying to watch the game.
Why would the two German teams going out of the Champions League affect the interest in...
Not in Germany.
But from us, why is it not an interesting title race when it's so... OK, Bayern have pinched back the lead that Dortmund had, but because they're not in the Champions League doesn't mean that this is not going to be a great title run-in from outside Germany.
But because of the failures in the Champions League, it makes you question how good these teams are. Well, and so if you've got two... let's just, for example, if you've got two bad teams going for the title, why would other people other than the fans of that country or those teams be interested? That's kind of where it is for me.
So if anybody's not gone for the Champions League, we can't watch the title run-in.
You can watch anything you like, Craig.
It's very elitist, isn't he?
I'm just saying.
I mean...
Two average teams going for a title.
I tell you what, they're not average.
It's hardly mind-blowing, is it?
Listen, Bayern Munich are not at the best, and they had a bad night when they went out against Liverpool. There's no doubt about that. Borussia Dortmund are a fantastic young side, right? They're not
that fantastic.
Well, no, they're a fantastic young side. They had a very bad night at Wembley. I thought Lucien Favre got his tactics wrong, he got his team personnel wrong, and they got whopped. Right? These things can happen. I don't think that means these two are all of a sudden terrible.
It's a massive game when these two meet, of course.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. No,
it's not. We just slaughtered Bayern. That was a massive game.
Stevie playing games over on Extra Time. You can check it out, of course, available every day on our YouTube channel. The full ICC schedule was a glory. You can check it out in some more detail over on the website. We sent Xhaka there for the announcement. There were quite a few former players that he sat down with as well, including the likes of Diego Forlan, former United player Brian Robson was there as well, plus actor Jason Sudeikis. He also did some other interviews.
I'm joined by a very important guest right here in the ESPN FC set at the ICC studios. Mr. Beer, please sit. Do I call you Bernie or Mr. Beer? Bernie it is. Bernie, I have to say, you barely got knocked out of the Champions League. How did that make you feel? Does that mean that the Bundesliga title is the only pot of honey at the end of this season? And are you looking to a long hibernation of the off-season? Well, that kind of says it all. There's only one way to end this interview, Mr. Beer. Go on, give me a hug. Give me a beer hug.
I know Stevie Nicol there, you know, he was in the team as well. I watched him play, you know. His hairstyle is just as good as it was back then, you know what I mean? For everyone out there in
I'm
America,
not so sure, Shibas. I'm not so sure. You haven't seen Stevie in a while, clearly.
I've seen him on TV, I've seen him. I didn't know who it was for a second there.
I've been getting a hard time from Stevie Nicol about my beard.
Why is that?
I don't know.
In fairness, though, Stevie Nicol, sometimes those glasses looks like is a Fira off Coronation Street, or Deirdre Barlow sometimes. Stevie, start out the glasses because you look like Deirdre Barlow off Coronation Street. I still love you, mate, but, you know, there's nothing wrong with a good beard.
Yeah.
So if you're wondering who Deirdre Barlow is, a very popular soap opera in England is Coronation Street. She's no longer with us, but do we have a picture of her? There she is.
I'm scared to say. I can tell where he's coming from.
Yeah. She looks like more sensible.
I'm not going with that. The last one I thought was no.
Do you think so?
Aye. Yeah, I don't have my bangs. See, she's got her bangs.
Yeah.
No bangs. Mine go the other way.
Oh dear, we're talking about Deirdre Barlow.
Deirdre Barlow.
Goodness.
To be fair, those glasses would go well on you, the big round
Big
ones.
red ones.
Big red round ones.
Tell you what, I bet he wouldn't say it if he was sat here next to me.
Who would?
Sean.
Seamus.
Seamus, sorry.
Sean.
Why didn't they send you down to interview the bear? That'd be great television.
Strategic decision, one imagines. Interviewing he must have done other stuff. I presume Xhaka did other things when he was down there.
Don't worry, there'll be more tomorrow. Xhaka's down there tomorrow as well, I think.
Is he?
Yep. More interviews to come. You can join us. Stevie's off, but fear not, Stuart Robson is here. Now, if you haven't seen it, this video has gone viral.
He's never going to catch on with these greedy, egotistical adults that are playing.
Stevie, if that was your son, would you applaud him or would you chastise him?
For putting it wide?
Yeah.
No, I'd applaud him.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you have to be competitive, but there's a line between being competitive and something that's just blatantly wrong. And so when it's as wrong as that and as obvious as that...
You got no problem with it?
No.
But what if one of your players did it at the Revs when you were coaching?
No, I would have no problem with
Really?
it. Yes.
Finally, extra time, of course, is available. We asked for your tweets, a whole different range of subjects. This one is about my dress. I thought all Englishmen knew how to dress. Why does Dan Thomas sit with his jacket buttoned every episode? Never changes. What are you hiding under there? I don't know. Is there a... Should you have it undone?
Well,
Are you asking me? I don't know.
No.
Why would you ask me?
Actually, having your jacket buttons not an issue. Well, it shouldn't be an issue.
Why, what's the
some
issue?
do, some don't. The issue is you should never button the two buttons.
Why not?
The bottom one should always be under.
Why?
You read about it. Look it up.
No, what's the reason?
Look it up where?
It's unfashionable. Look it up.
Where?
Who says?
Look it up. Look it up where? Well, look up the magazines, all the fashion magazines. Never button the
More of
bottom
this
button.
fascinating chat over on
Where am I
Extra
going to
Time.
look it up? You can look that up.
Welcome into Extra Time. We start off with a theme that seems to be occurring throughout this week, it being International Week. Some of our guests have been asked to speak their native language. Raf, you're up if you'd like a suggestion. I know that you like your steak very well done as well, so you can ask to send it back to the kitchen until it is at your desired cook.
Sorry, you want me to send back a steak that's already well done?
Yeah, in German.
I would never ask for a steak to be well done, okay, in any language. But if I wanted to be slightly more done, I'd say, können Sie es bitte noch mal kurz 1 Minute auf den Grill legen? Vielen Dank.
Wow.
I've been in most of the week, right?
Yes.
Where did you pull this? We've been asking everybody to talk in the...
Well, Gav said it a couple of days ago.
Said what?
Oh, so that's everybody there.
I don't know, Stevie. It's
Gav
International Week. I'm trying, man.
I've been in all week.
You haven't been in all week.
I'm sure.
How? I've
But
done
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday don't count.
I don't know. I've done 9 days in a row.
He's getting all upset. Look at him.
I'm tired.
Look at his face.
Tired of this.
He's actually got. He's
I'm
actually not
tired.
happy.
Hold this into my violin, will you?
No, he's actually not happy. As if you've been trying so hard to do something.
Next question for Stevie. It's 0-0 with 10 minutes to go in the Champions League final. You can bring on Messi or Ronaldo to win the game. Who would you turn to?
Messi.
Why?
I would turn to Messi because, you know, Ronaldo really is the guy you want in the box on the end of something, right?
Yep.
That would constitute winning the game.
Hold on a sec, that mate.
Say it in German. No, don't.
No. Whereas Messi can actually conjure something up from the middle of the park for somebody else in the box.
Yeah.
But he could also, at times, be in the box himself. So I think Messi can get you a goal in more ways than maybe what Ronaldo could.
Why is Love so hell-bent on starting Neuer over Ter Stegen, Raf?
I don't know if he's hell-bent. I think he's actually paving the way for perhaps making a change, but he doesn't want to make that change now. And I think I can understand it because he's just axed the 2 World Cup winners at centre-back. Some people welcome it, some people thought it was premature. I think now putting a new goalkeeper in as well, in his mind, would have made for too much change. And Neuer, even if he's not quite the Neuer of 2013 or 14, is still a pretty good keeper. So I think he's making that change maybe a little bit closer to Euro 2020.
Tweeted you this earlier, but having a debate with my co-worker, was the Neuer play on Higuain back in the World Cup in 2014? Going back a bit, 5 years, should be a foul. Should the penalty kick have been given? What is the rule when a keeper wins the ball but clears out the opponent in a dangerous fashion? We just watched it, Stevie. What do you think? We went back?
No penalty.
No?
Higuain doesn't even go for the ball. Neuer's got his eyes on the ball. Neuer goes for the ball. He has to get off the ground because it's that high.
Right.
I don't see it's a foul or penalty at all.
Raf, I wonder what you make of this.
It's a really difficult one because Neuer wins the ball very cleanly. And as Stevie said, Higuain doesn't make an attempt to win the ball. However, he is inherently endangering the safety of Higuain because he wipes him out completely and it can easily be construed as a reckless challenge. So I think he got very lucky there that the referee, I think it was Rizzoli on the night in Rio, saw only the clean challenge and didn't actually see Neuer completely clearing out Higuain, which if it had been a player, an outfield player, people would have said he's out of control. That is very dangerous play. That could be a penalty.
See, this is where the people that write the laws, most of them, some of them write the laws of the game, have little or no understanding of the actions a player has to take. I've said it 100 times, the most innocuous of challenges. If you, Dan Thomas, are running past me in the wing and I just try and poke the ball away without any force and I mistime it and your ankle goes to the ground, I can snap your ligaments without any forceful challenge whatsoever. All it takes is the studs to catch you. And when you're running at great pace, as Neuer was, or any player, and you have to make a challenge, that is the whole emphasis of the game and winning the ball back. You cannot approach a challenge and have it in your mind that you're not going to be physical or indeed reckless. If you want to call it reckless, I would call it ambitious. And it's a...
I mean, when the rules were written, right, it was a contact sport for a challenge that you just saw there. That's why that's deemed not a foul, because what is Neuer supposed to do? Or as Raf said, if a centre-back, the ball bounces in the air, has his eyes on the ball and he just goes straight and heads it, and somebody wants to run across here and end up getting clattered, that's not the centre-back's fault, and it's certainly not Neuer's fault. So the rules of the game were written that contact is allowed for those particular reasons.
No, there are you know, two-footed over-the-top challenges. I understand, but if we're saying, take Neuer out of the equation, if we're saying a midfielder runs across and cleans the ball out and then takes the player, if we're saying, and the lawmakers are trying to say that's endangering an opponent, and I'll say every tackle can endanger an opponent, so we might as well say you're not allowed to tackle anymore. You can't do it, because the point being is almost everything can become dangerous of a slight missed time. And let's be honest, most tackles are, a lot of tackles are missed time.
Final question, someone tell Craig to coach the Scotland national team, please, for Scotland.
I've got a coaching job at the moment. It's on the golf course.
Oh yeah? You're coaching Stevie.
It's well down the line.
That's it then, ESPN FC. We are back tomorrow, continuing to look ahead to return of domestic action.
Are you going to be in a
By the way,
are you going to be in a better mood, or are you going to take
Well,
the
you're
hump?
off, you wouldn't know.
Hey,
We've got 3 days.
Look, he's done it again. Look, he's on the hump.
I've just done 9 days in a row.
Hey, you tried being sat here with these two grumpy every day.
I've just done 9 days in a row.
Every day. Why are we doing this? What are we doing this for? Why are we talking about this?
Exactly.
Children.
Yeah.
Oh, look at him.
Think outside the box.